Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Meredith Lego, and I'm doing a series of videos on Ascension science. I am sharing some teachings that I've gotten from a connection with a being called Ascended Master Hilarion. And during meditation or shortly after meditation, I basically learned from him by asking him questions on the topics that I've been talking about in the video series, as well as other teachers as well. Frankly, I haven't shared some of the content I've gotten from other teachers along the way, but we'll do so in the future when I've kind of gotten through some of this root content. And in the first few videos, if you're new to the channel, they've covered topics around the sort of quantum or source field that we exist in, topics around polarity of energies. And if you are new, I highly encourage you to go back to the beginning, because many of the topics sort of build upon themselves. The last few videos, or I guess you could say chapters, that I'm focusing on right now is around the concept of ascension and stages of ascension. And the first few dealt with how we start to essentially ascend, and it correlates to the various chakras in our bodies. But we work on sort of mastering our physical body, our emotional body, our mental or ego personality complex, and then kind of start to move up into integrating different polarized energies within ourselves, so to speak, and start to achieve more of a neutral point, and then start to move on to more of a teaching format. So the last stage that I'm going to talk about today is the sixth stage of ascension, or the sixth initiation stage of ascension. So again, I'll kind of read what I channeled from Hilarion, and then essentially kind of unpack it. So he says that the next stage, or sixth stage, the next leveling up in teaching, is as an ascended teacher, similar to how master teachers connect with chelas who are ready. So again, a chela is nothing more than sort of a spiritual student, or a student learning about these concepts. These teaching opportunities come in the form we practice now, through a channeled connection or through work with students in the astral plane. Many students are in dream time during these classes and are not aware of all their astral body is experiencing and learning. The conscious mind does not know, for any memories fade like a shooting star as the being wakes from slumber. But the subconscious remembers and records all, and those lessons are saved away in a filing system, in DNA codes, and in the Akashic record for future use. They often reach or surface into the being as moments of inspiration or a sudden flash of an idea, similar to how your question for me today popped up into your conscious awareness during your morning shower time. So in summary, family and small interpersonal group interactions are the first step in teaching. This is your path right now, Chela. So basically, in kind of, reviewing this, essentially, if you go back to the last video that I posted on stages 4 and 5, there's sort of a reintegration process of the energies, the extreme polar energies that are kind of going on. You start to move to a neutral point, and then there was a strong overlap with stage 5, in which you're starting to essentially teach others in smaller groups. And what he's saying is that as you're kind of going into this stage 6, you're taking on more of a role of master teacher. Now, the one thing that I have never really, and I think this is very important, and I'm going to go into this in a future video, something I actually channeled last night that I'll be doing a video on today and posting it in a couple of days. But it has to do with the concept of being true to your own sovereignty. And so even if you're learning from a teacher, a quote-unquote ascended teacher, it doesn't necessarily mean that that teacher is better than you. essentially means that they just have a different perspective to offer based upon different experiences that they've had. So the most important thing is that, the term master teacher, I view that loosely as in, well, here's a person who has sort of mastered a skill, but is not the master over me or my own discernment and thought process. And I think that's very important. You have to have your own discernment. You have to, ensure that what you're learning resonates with your own truths, and sort of discard what doesn't resonate. So in this particular sense, I believe that the term master here was used in the sense that, like, you might learn from a master carpenter because they've mastered the skills of being a carpenter. So these individuals, these particular teachers, have mastered some of the skills of what's necessary to kind of ascend past the reincarnational cycle and ascend consciousness. And at this point, you're starting to teach, basically teach others this process. I think what's very interesting to note here, and I can share with you my own personal experiences, is that when we do sleep at night, our astral body, quote unquote emotional body, is out sort of roaming around, having experiences. And one of the things that has been interesting for me during my awakening experience is that I've noticed that it's happening. I've become more lucid of that, of the fact that it's happening. And he does talk about the fact that at night, many students who are sort of on this path will find themselves going to classes at night, actually continuing that learning process. And so, and when it does happen, those learnings that you're getting essentially get stored into your subconscious. And at some point during your normal waking time, they might rise to the surface at an appropriate time that your soul basically feels that you need it to become more conscious. And in this particular case, sometimes things will pop into my conscious awareness, like an idea just automatically comes out. That's sort of a download, either a download from within your DNA, or it could be a download from source. But it frequently for me happens in the shower, because water is actually a good conductor for receiving downloads. And there's a whole video series that I could probably get into, and how water acts as a good conductor for sort of the electrical flow of source. But that being said, my own experiences have been knowing that I am in classrooms, learning about spiritual concepts or teachings. Sometimes I bop around between different teachers because even in the waking time, I don't want to get strung on any one particular teacher. I like to learn lots of different perspectives, so I find myself doing that in the astral. I spend times in the libraries in the astral, also continuing to learn, in addition to sort of reading and absorbing content here in the physical world. And in addition to that, I think one of the important things that, I think is part of that experience is learning to gain a lot more lucidity and control over your experiences in the astral. And I'll explain why in a future video, but it has to do with making sure that you have full consent of kind of what's going on around you. So that's essentially, what he talked about when he got into the 6th stage of Ascension. So again, it's just taking the knowledge and beginning to share it more. And I guess when you're at the 6th level, you're literally a master teacher. So you've sort of gotten past that point of needing to sort of incarnate, and you can start to share the learnings with others who you can connect with. So with that, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will continue on the learnings of more Ascension science, or the teachings, I should say, of more Ascension science. And we'll be getting into a lot of different interesting topics around, other teachings that I've gotten from Hilarion and other teachers as well. I do want to share next in a couple videos how this correlates with some of the Egyptian Mystery School Ascension techniques that they used, and start to get into the impacts of what happens to the actual physical body as we're going through this process as well. So look for that in future videos. With that, have a great rest of your day. Bye.